The reproductive cycle refers to the series of physiological changes and processes that occur within an organism to enable reproduction. In humans, this cycle typically refers to the menstrual cycle in females, which is a regulated process that prepares the body for potential pregnancy. It involves a complex interplay of hormones, biological structures, and physiological changes that occur over a set period. The menstrual cycle is typically around 28 days, though it can vary from person to person. The cycle is divided into several phases, each of which plays a critical role in reproduction. The first phase of the menstrual cycle is known as the follicular phase. This phase begins on the first day of menstruation, which is when the shedding of the uterine lining occurs. During this phase, a hormone called follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, is released by the pituitary gland in the brain. FSH stimulates several small follicles in the ovaries to grow. Each follicle contains an immature egg, and as the follicles grow, they begin producing estrogen. Estrogen is a hormone that helps rebuild the lining of the uterus, called the endometrium, which had been shed during menstruation. As the follicles grow and produce estrogen, one follicle becomes dominant, while the others regress. This dominant follicle eventually matures and prepares to release an egg. As estrogen levels rise, it triggers a surge in another hormone called luteinizing hormone LH, which is produced by the pituitary gland. The surge in LH is crucial because it causes the dominant follicle to release its mature egg, a process called ovulation. Ovulation marks the transition from the follicular phase to the next phase of the cycle, called the ovulatory phase. The ovulatory phase is the brief period that occurs around the middle of the menstrual cycle, typically around day 14 in a 28-day cycle, though this can vary depending on the individual. During ovulation, the mature egg is released from the dominant follicle in the ovary and is captured by the fallopian tube, where it may meet sperm for fertilization. Ovulation is a critical event in the reproductive cycle because it provides the egg necessary for potential fertilization. The egg is viable for fertilization for about 12 to 24 hours after ovulation, so timing is crucial for conception. Once ovulation has occurred, the body enters the luteal phase, which follows the ovulatory phase. After the egg is released, the ruptured follicle transforms into a structure known as the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum secretes the hormone progesterone, which plays a key role in maintaining the uterine lining. Progesterone helps prepare the uterus for a potential pregnancy by thickening the endometrium further, creating a supportive environment for a fertilized egg to implant and grow. If fertilization does not occur, the corpus luteum will eventually shrink and degenerate, leading to a drop in progesterone levels. This decline in progesterone causes the thickened uterine lining to break down and shed, which is the start of menstruation. The menstrual bleeding signifies the end of one cycle and the beginning of the next. This shedding of the uterine lining ensures that the body is ready for a fresh start in the next cycle. The luteal phase typically lasts around 14 days, and menstruation usually follows about 2 weeks after ovulation, marking the beginning of a new cycle. If fertilization does occur, the fertilized egg implants itself into the thickened endometrial lining, and it begins to secrete a hormone called human chorionic gonadotropin HCG. The presence of HCG signals the body that pregnancy has occurred, and it helps to maintain the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum continues to produce progesterone during the early stages of pregnancy, which keeps the uterine lining intact and supports the developing pregnancy until the placenta takes over progesterone production around the 10th week of pregnancy. The reproductive cycle is tightly regulated by a feedback loop of hormones. The hypothalamus in the brain detects the levels of hormones in the body and releases gonadotropin-releasing hormone GnRH, which stimulates the pituitary gland to release FSH and LH. These hormones, in turn, control the growth of follicles and the production of estrogen and progesterone. As estrogen and progesterone levels fluctuate throughout the cycle, they help regulate the release of FSH and LH, creating a coordinated cycle of hormonal changes that ensure the proper timing of ovulation and menstruation. In addition to the menstrual cycle, The reproductive cycle in females also includes important changes to the female reproductive organs,